distinguished members of the governing body, good morning. It is with unwavering commitment to the cause of enabling decent work and realizing labor rights in Bangladesh that I present before the governing body the progress made in implementing the 2021 to 26 roadmap. Bangladesh started its journey with the vision of its father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who dedicated himself to the emancipation of the toiling masses from exploitation and deprivation. Under the bold and pragmatic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, we are determined to establish a developed and smart Bangladesh by 2041, prioritizing labor rights and meeting international labor standards. Mr. Chair, in the wake of COVID-19 and various man-made crises, including conflicts, Bangladesh, like many other nations, has faced economic challenges. The RMG industry in particular has been affected by external shocks such as factory closure and a decline in exports, resulting in job losses and unpredictability among workers on their livelihood. Food and fuel prices escalation, exchange rate fluctuations, depletion of the foreign currency reserve added to our challenges. Despite these difficulties, Bangladesh has remained committed to improving labor conditions in alignment with the roadmap to catalyze significant transformations in the world of work. Among many other initiatives, we, in cooperation with the employers, have successfully launched piloting of Employment Injury Scheme, EIS, in the ready-made garment sector in June 2022. Distinguished presence, I will present Bangladesh's progress in ensuring better working conditions against two parameters: the agreed roadmap from 2021 to 2026 and Bangladesh's compliance to international labor standards. On the broad category of legal reforms, I underscore that Bangladesh has ratified 8 out of 10 fundamental conventions and a total of 36 conventions and 1 protocol, which is one of the highest in our region. This aptly reflects our commitment to align with international law on labor standards. We have successfully amended Bangladesh labor rules in September 2022 and adopted the export processing zone labor rules in October 2022 to bring in improvements. On amendment of the Bangladesh Labor Act 2006 in the 349th governing body held in November 23, I reported that the National Parliament of Bangladesh had adopted the Bangladesh Labor Act Amendment Bill 2023, and the bill was awaiting assent by the Honorable President. Some stakeholders, especially from the workers' bench, raised concerns on some aspects which could not be addressed. Honorable President sent the bill back with some observations on further improvement of the bill. Those observations could not be addressed as the schedule of the general election was declared within days, and the last parliament could not transact any further business. As new government was sworn in on 11 January 2024, we immediately resumed the process of labor law reform and reconvened the tripartite law review committee meeting. TLRC has now finalized its recommendations, incorporating agreed upon points raised by technical experts, members of the governing body, and Honorable President's observations. In the whole exercise, we had extensively exchanges of views with the ILO Dhaka office in 5 full sessions, and we must thank ILO Dhaka office for their contributions. Distinguished members of the governing body, we are confident that the National Tripartite Consultative Council, the NTCC, will approve the amendments proposed by TLRC, paving the way for an amendment bill to be sent to the Cabinet and thereafter to the Parliament. Recommendations finalized by the TLRC inter alia includes the following. The number of workers required for registration of trade unions has been reduced from 20% to 15% for enterprises and from 30% to 20% for establishments. The number of documents required for registration has been reduced. Management will now be under legal obligations to divulge information on number of total workers so that these percentages can be determined. B, provisions of trade union formation in civil aviation sector has been further eased and provisions on multi-trade unions for seamen are made. Provisions included standard operating procedures regarding the method of seeking expert assistance in collective bargaining. D, the prohibited time of strikes in new establishments is being reduced to 2 years from 3 years. E, penalty for employers in case of unfair labor practice or anti-trade union discrimination has been proposed to be increased by 50% and fine for illegal lockouts by employers to be increased by 300%. F, appeals against labor appeal tribunal is being simplified by reducing one step. These are new provisions which are expected to contribute to better implementation of Convention 87 on freedom of association and Convention 98 on right to organize and collective bargaining. Mr. Chair, to strengthen inspection mechanisms, a specific provision has been proposed for inspections without prior notice. Additionally, measures have been introduced to adopt standard operating procedures to enhance the effectiveness of the labor inspection system. This step reflects our firm commitment to Convention 81 on factory inspection. Moreover, the following additional provisions have also been proposed. A 400% upward revision of fine has been proposed for hiring of child labor. B, gender-based violence and harassment have been defined in line with Convention 190 on violence and harassment. C, further clarifications has been made in relation to informing relevant authorities regarding accidents, dangerous incidents, and certain occupational diseases to further implement Convention 155 on occupational safety and health. With these new provisions, we strongly believe that the Bangladesh Labor Amendment Act 2024, anticipated to be concluded before the next session of the governing body, will be a significant milestone to guide us towards concrete developments in implementing decent work goals. It will also generate momentum towards amendment of the EPZ Labor Amendment Act by the stipulated timeline of June 2025. Distinguished delegates, let me now turn to progress made on trade union registration. Our efforts in overhauling the registration system by digitizing it, introducing pre-application service, broad coverage of training yielded development, both in quality and quantity. The number of trade unions has increased 9 times in 9 years. In the ready-made garment sector, over 3 million workers are now registered as trade union members in this sector alone. Success rate of registration has increased from 60% to 90% in the last 4 years. With the new provisions of flexibility in the envisaged Bangladesh Labor Amendment Act 2024, success rates for registration is likely to increase further. Mr. Chair, in the area of labor inspection and enforcement, we have undertaken significant measures to bolster the labor inspectorate, including the recruitment of new labor inspectors and creation of new positions to ensure its full functionality. Although the roadmap indicated total inspectors to be 575, we have created 724 posts, what was 314 in 2020. In just 3 years, we made an increase in the number of posts. In the last 6 months of 2023 alone, 20,719 inspections took place and a significant number of violations were rectified. Export processing zones are also being inspected regularly by DIFE inspectors, which is in addition to the inspection done by EPZ inspectors. 2 separate helplines are working with success rate of more than 90% in resolving issues. Since the roadmap has been drawn, 6 new labor courts were established, and now total labor court stands at 13. The conciliation of arbitration cell established in 2021 has received 114 applications for conciliation thus far, of which 106 have already been solved, indicating its effectiveness. Additionally, the management and monitoring of court cases, MMC, software developed previously was updated with the support from the International Labour Organization. All these efforts have certainly contributed to fulfill Bangladesh's obligations under Convention 81 on labour inspection. Distinguished colleagues, allow me to update you on the progress we achieved in our efforts to stop anti-union discrimination / unfair labour practices and violence against workers. From July 2020 to December 31, 2023, over 36,000 trainees participated in training programs organized by government. Additionally, we trained 2,907 police personnel from January to November 2023. These training courses cover various topics, including the Labour Act 2006, human rights, labour rights, and industrial relations management. A compendium in Bangla language containing all existing and relevant laws, rules, and regulations is expected to make things easy for workers and their leaders, practitioners, and enforcers alike. Proposed amendments in the Labour Act include aspects to address unfair labour practice and violence against workers. As regards the case of Shahidul Islam in particular, we would like to mention there has been significant development recently. The police has submitted their investigation report indicting 14 accused persons, including the 4 who have confessed their guilt. Now the case is being readied for trial. This submission of charge sheet will now initiate the process of trial. Furthermore, the 10 cases referred to in CFA case number 3203 have been fully resolved. Our conformity with Conventions 87 and 98, and to that effect, proposed amendments in the Labour Act 2006 and rules thereof should suffice to highlight our strong commitment regarding this issue. Distinguished delegates, I want to underscore here that in the last 4 months, in the last GB, we had a general election and the parliament was not in session. The incumbent government was barred by the Election Commission to take important policy decisions. The new government was sworn in on 11 January 2024, as I mentioned earlier, and the Honorable Prime Minister appointed my colleague, the State Minister for Labour and Employment, just a week ago. We, however, remained active and are almost ready with further amendment in the Labour Act that is reflecting our commitment to realize the roadmap. Mr. Chair, we expect that the governing body will find our progress noteworthy in all 4 areas of the roadmap. A deep political will and consistent efforts went into these achievements, and the openness with which Bangladesh has remained engaged with ILO and our social partners to overcome these deficits. We are aware that compliance is always a work in progress, and we have to go a long way. To conclude, constructive engagement, due recognition of progress made in their right context, and provision of technical assistance can contribute largely to decent work goals. On the other hand, lack of recognition, highlighting only deficits without regard to context and challenges, mechanical demand for activating complaint mechanisms have the potential to erode confidence in partnership, to discourage undertaking remedial measures, and to even alienate a country. I urge the governing body to appreciate our achievements and value our proactive engagement with ILO, social partners, to set the right direction towards improved labor relations in Bangladesh. With committed reforms in labor rules and improvements secured thus far, it would be logical to seek early closure of the present Article 26 complaint procedure against Bangladesh. ILO supervisory bodies may be tasked with further monitoring and providing necessary advice and technical support. I thank you.